Jon Carda, and I've met Paige, and I have been voluntold. So, I want to tell you a story about transformation. And did you know there was a bird's nest in the corner of the ceiling on the high B on East 10th Street? Well, I discovered this bird's nest one early Saturday morning as I'm lying on my back looking at the ceiling at this high B. I remember thinking to myself, that is a strange place for a bird's nest. And then, how does it stick to the ceiling? How did they do this? This is an engineering marvel. And my thoughts then turned to, what am I doing on the floor? So the journey begins. I became unconscious, passed out while I was shopping. And this all happened in the egg aisle. And the egg aisle is next to the bacon and the ham. And if you know me, I was in the right spot. So I passed out. Hit my head, just full tilt backwards with a full shopping cart at my feet. Something wasn't right. I wasn't feeling good. So I gathered what personal items I could find, and I went to my car, which was in the parking lot, and I called Paige, and I said, hey, I'm not feeling very good, might have passed out. I think I hit my head. I'll be home in a minute. And she said, no, you won't. You're going to stay right there. I said, it's just a little ways away. Stay there. I heard the tone. I was staying right there. So she arrived, and I said, I have a full shopping cart, because my daughter had a bunch of friends over who were staying overnight, and they needed breakfast, hence why I was there. And I said, there's donuts in that shopping cart. So once again, if you knew me in my prior profession, donuts go hand in hand. But, yeah, we needed the donuts. So my wife left me in the car. She went inside, bought the donuts, came back out and said, we need to go to the emergency room. So priorities are always a good thing. And but first we stopped at home and delivered the donuts to the girls who were still sleeping. She convinced me to go to the emergency room, and it was just a look. You know how your spouse gives you that look? Well, I got the look. We're going to the emergency room. Upon arrival, they started asking me questions, like who was regardless of your political, so this is 1 year ago, by the way, 1 year ago, to the week, regardless of your political affiliations, who is the President of the United States? And so I said, Barack Obama. And apparently that wasn't right, but it felt good saying it anyway. So I knew something wasn't right. She then asked me, what's your anniversary date? And I didn't know. What is your wife's birthday? I did not know. What are your children's birthday? And I didn't know. It was one of the children, because listen, I'll be honest with you, I may have forgotten once or twice my anniversary date. But when I didn't remember my children's birthday, I was becoming concerned. And then I realized I have a problem. Something happened. And then I also realized another thing, that I just got the golden ticket. I can't remember my anniversary date. He's the doctor sitting right next to me, confirming that I don't remember the anniversary date. I'm good to go. We're good. So they did all the tests and came back and told me that I had had a stroke and there was a blood clot in my hippocampus. Now, I don't know what the hippocampus does. I don't know where it's at. I can't spell hippocampus, but they told me it has something to do with memory, vision, balance. And all of those things were negatively affected. I knew something was up because en route to Hy-Vee that early Saturday morning, I normally take 3 minutes to drive a half mile to the Hy-Vee. And it took me a good 20 because I got lost. And I'm driving around and just stumbled upon the parking lot. Now, I'm in the hospital for a number of days, and BrewHaHa last year, I was not here because I was busy with something else. And I'm told my children came back from where they're living A son came from, just returned home from a deployment in the military, and he came by, and I don't remember any of this, but I'm thankful that they all came back. And this initiated a healthy start of therapy, speech, occupational, and physical therapy. And the good folks at Sanford Hospital are fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I think speech therapy has to be renamed. And if you've ever had to do speech therapy, you will understand. I'm going to call it 10th grade algebra torture hour. That's exactly what it was. It was all algebra. And thank goodness my father was a math teacher, and I paid attention because I can do algebra, and it made life just a little bit easier. And so it began the long journey, and it was months of not working, and months of therapy, and months of trying to figure out, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Because I realized that I can't do what I used to do. I have been a police officer for 31 years here in this city. And the last 11 prior to that, I was a detective in the Crimes Against Persons Unit, and I was a sex crimes and homicide investigator. I knew I would not be able to carry a handgun. It just wasn't in the works. But I didn't want to give it up. And I was scared. I was very scared. The reason I was scared is because I had a plan. There was another state agency that wanted me, and I was going to retire in a few months, and I was going to be a statewide director of training on how to investigate child sexual assault, how to do it properly, so that people are held accountable. And that was, we had a plan, and that was all out the window in a matter of a second of me lying on my back looking at this bird's nest in Hy-Vee. So I go at this aggressively, and I lose my driver's license along the way because of this whole thing. And after months, I'm able to get back into a car. And I knew I wasn't, my thought process wasn't as where it should be because of the story that I'm going to tell you here. So I get into the car. This young lady, it's her first job out of college. I think she's a physical therapist. So but what she's doing is giving driver's exams all day, every day. And I get into a car that's a Subaru Outback, and it's outfitted for people with any kind of special need. If you can imagine it, that car can handle it. And here I am, I'm a little bit larger than your average guy. And I'm kind of crunched in between all the knobs and the things, and we're driving along, and I have not told her one thing about me. She doesn't know me from Adam, but I have been asking her a lot of questions, because that's what I did. I asked questions of people. So I know her, she doesn't know me, but as we're driving along, I see this car in front of us, and it's a patrol car, and I'm thinking, it's been months since I've seen anybody that I work with. I wonder who that is. So I pull up alongside of him, and I look, and he's not looking at me, he's looking straight ahead. So I go a little bit in front of him, and then I drop back a little bit. And then she's saying, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. It's going to be okay. So then he still wasn't looking at me, so I pull up and drop back. I pull up and drop back 3 times. And as I'm doing this, she's saying, you are going to fail this exam. And I said, it's going to be okay. And so I pull up even with him again, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and I gave him a thumbs up. And he pointed at me, and it was really great to see my friend in the patrol car. I gave him a thumbs up. I slowed back down, and she said, pull the car over. So what you don't know is that I am well trained in driving in all sorts of conditions. Like yearly, we have to pass this emergency vehicle driver's course, and we're driving at high speed, stopping on a dime, turning quickly, backing into tight spaces, and turning cookies, and taking a car that's going backwards, turning around and going forward. Anyway, all the cool things you see on TV, that's what we get paid to do. So it was awesome, but I didn't tell her that. Then I decided to tell her, okay, it's all right, I know how to drive, but my decision-making process isn't where it should be. Would you agree with that? And she said, oh, 100%. But she still passed me, and it was good. But, so now I'm able to drive again, and I know life is changing. I can feel it creeping in on me. My family, talks to me and they say, we don't think you should go back to your current job, and we don't think you should take this new position that would even be more stress. And so I'm trying to process this, and I'll be honest with you and tell you that I was scared. I was scared for the first time in my life. I didn't know what the future held. And I've been a guy I like to be in control of. I like to know what's happening. And whether it comes to our daily life, our finances, my career, I want to know what the next step is. And I don't do anything without a plan. And there are people in the room, like my brother-in-law, who can attest to that. Like, we gotta have a plan, or it's not happening. But I couldn't think out of the box because I only knew what I knew, and I was scared. But my wife, Paige, and my children, they could see potential that I couldn't see. So, as a therapy for myself, both physical and like psychological, I would imagine, I started walking. And I walked hundreds of miles on the bike path this last summer, just trying to get myself together. I've listened to every podcast that you can possibly imagine. And we made a joke about this, like it's a Forrest Gump thing, like, where's John? Well, if he's out walking, and he's out walking, completely Forrest Gump. And I had to walk every day. But during that process, I learned that I needed to make a change. But man, I was scared. I didn't know if I had it in me. I didn't know I could do anything else in life. I'm on one of these walks, and I remember this very clearly. There's these switchbacks on the bike path that kind of move up toward the penitentiary, and I was about halfway through there on turn 3, like it matters. And I get this phone call, and it's a lady from the Human Resources Department of a large hospital here in Sioux Falls, and she says, we'd like to set a time for an interview for you with the job that you just applied for. And I said, well, okay. I didn't apply for a job, but I said, sure, let's do this. And when I got home, I talked to Paige and I said, hey, I got this phone call from this HR person. And she said, yeah, I forgot to tell you I applied for a job. So she generated a resume and submitted it and didn't tell me about it. So she had faith. I couldn't see it. She had faith. And I went to my first interview. I was so scared. When I say like I felt like vomiting outside, I did. That's not an exaggeration. I went to the second interview. I was even more terrified. I've never been so scared. It's just, like, I've been in some really hairy situations in my life, and this frightened me. This one frightened me, because there's no training for this. There's no background for this. It's fear. Change is hard. Change is hard. And so they offered me a job. And they happened to offer me a job. My brother-in-law was with me. I was in the house that he was remodeling in the basement. Remember that day, Jamie? And they called me and offered me a job. And I'm negotiating a salary in the basement of this renovation house with my brother-in-law that's doing work. And I didn't know what I was negotiating. But I just was amazed that someone saw something in me that I couldn't see. I 100% couldn't see it. So I decided I'm going to take this job. I took the job, and once again, the very first day that I showed up, I was terrified. I didn't know I had the ability to do what I'm doing now. I didn't see it. What I've come to learn now over these last couple months is that change sucks. It really does. And I had to learn a new language, so to speak, like a business language. Like the way people communicate via email, talking about a murder investigation is much different than they do about finances. It's completely different. I had to learn, like, we communicate, you can't swear. And the president of the organization pulled me into the office and said, no, I think you need to stop dropping the F-bomb. I can do that, sir, thank you very much. I want to leave you with this, is that if there's something in your life that you find challenging, that it hurts, that you're putting off intentionally, that you think is daunting, do it. 100% do it, because it's only the things that are tough, only the things that really suck. Embrace the suck, because it will improve your life. Thank you.